So my job today, everybody, is we haven't met. My name is John Arms. They call me the mayor of Frackville. I try to lead people into the fractional career place as best I can with education and everything else. There's a lot of things you have to learn to do this that you didn't learn in your full-time corporate life. And I dedicated myself to teaching that 7 years ago. The education arm is a big part of it. Wow. What is this? I've been a job person my whole life. I've had a full-time job my whole life. And what is this fractional thing? How do I do it right? I think equally important is what do I got to watch out for not to do wrong? So that's what I do is I help people move from full-time to fractional. That's me. And I just happened to start doing it at a time when the market said, we like this fractional model. Let's keep going. So, all right, I'm going to move everybody over here and I'm going to get started. I'm going to get started. So today we're going to talk about, and I'm going to get comfortable too. I'm going to sit back in my chair. I'm going to move my little speaker over here. And so today, I'm going to move the chat over here so I can see anything that comes in. So my job today is to talk about why fractional may be your next step as a marketing professional. So before we do that, I want to talk about the macro conditions, economics scenario we're living in here today on April 7th, 2026. And there's a slide when I do speak publicly and do other webinars and whatnot, there's a visual that really seems to grasp it. And that is this. All of us grew up in a world where there was this conveyor belt of jobs going around. Basically, it started in shortly after World War II is the conveyor belt spun around and around and around, and you could get onto it and you can get a job. I should say that I didn't make up the conveyor belt. I picked it up in a great book by Bill Gurley, who wrote Running Down a Dream. Great book. He's an investor in, I think, Uber. Anyway, I picked it up from one of his podcasts, but I love the ideas that, there's always been this conveyor belt that we could always count on. Like it's always spinning and you could get on it and you can get a job. And it's been very, very stable for a very long time. And we grew up with that. I was born in 1968. It was very, very normal for all of us to hop on and get a job. My dad had a job for 42 years at the same company. And so all of that was normalized between about 1950 until around the mid 80s is when that started to change quite a bit. And we'll go a little bit deeper into that. But it was very reliable. It was very, very reliable. And if you got knocked off of the conveyor belt, the institutions and the systems and, the industries, there was always a way to get back on. There was always a way to get back on. There was always room. It might have been a little bit more difficult, but there was always space and you could always get back on. This was economically and work-wise normal for us until it wasn't. Until it wasn't. Somewhere between the 90s and now, that conveyor belt changed quite a bit. And what it's been in the last 5 years has been flipping insanity. Getting back on is incredibly hard. You have to upload your resume into places that may or may not be read by a human, and there's AI factors and recruiters and less space. There's just so many dynamics that, quite honestly, my contention, the side of the argument that I take is that conveyor belt has stopped spinning, at least as reliably so as we've counted on it for so many years as a working population. So that is a little bit of macroeconomics here. It's important to know that, right? Because if you have a life of work and it looked like this and somewhere along the way it didn't, well, it's important to have a macro understanding of this. Now I'm going to switch over to the second part of the macro understanding, and that is this. Oof, we are getting knocked off this conveyor belt like never before. That thing is nuts. Each of these hands represents an aspect of the economy that is knocking people off. We can call it ageism. We can call it AI. We can call it just not rehiring when you let somebody go, which means their companies are putting work on other people's shoulders. Like, yeah, Mary and Jim are gone. We're not replacing, so you just have more work to do. We've all felt that. We all know that to be part of it. But where we are right now in the last year is the not only is the conveyor not belt not spinning, these I wouldn't even call them invisible hands. We're just getting knocked off. We are just absolutely we're just getting pummeled as a workforce out of this reliable scenario. And I do have to talk about AI with this is the amount of investment. And I actually like AI. We're going to talk about it in a little bit. The amount of investment in AI currently is $240 billion. And the job of AI is to do the work of you of the people you see on the conveyor belt. That's its purpose, that's its function. Doesn't matter if you're an engineer, if you're a senior marketing leader, if you're in sales, its job. It's literally designed to go do that mental work that used to happen by the people. That's why it exists. That's the market it's penetrating. That's literally how it's operating right now. Well, no wonder, right? No wonder if there's $250 billion being invested to do the work, uh, what happens to the people before AI that were doing the work? They get knocked off the conveyor belt. So these are some pretty harsh realities that we're facing, but don't worry, it's not all negative. It changes something in all of us. There's an upside to every downside, and we're going to talk about it. But the kind of the macroeconomic condition I want to share today is just understanding where we are as a workforce, as an economy, what things are looking like, what they have looked like, and where things are going. And I'll switch over there. We're not getting back on that conveyor belt. It's done. I mean, I'm talking to recruiters all the time, and they're like, "Yep, for every job I might have 2,000 people that could qualify. Even getting on, if anybody's looked to find a replacement job, if you want to get back into the system, if you want to get back on, what we're hearing now is you're earning maybe two-thirds of what you were earning before. So it's not even the same conveyor belt. If you do manage to get back on, your tenure there is very, very short. There's so much friction and dynamics and I don't know, just craziness happening with the stability of full time that the conveyor belt itself is inherently malfunctioning. And maybe some of you have felt it, maybe some of you haven't. For how many people is a question, but um, in reality, there just isn't much in terms of getting back on. This isn't just affecting those of us who are over. I'm 58 years old. I almost said 57. I'm actually 58. I got to be more accurate about that. This isn't just affecting those of us, what we call wisdom workers, those of us who have a career behind us and finding ourselves as what was the layoff this week, everybody? It was Oracle, 30,000 people. There's a lot of quiet firings happening of 500, 1,000 people all over the place. People are getting knocked off the conveyor belt. But it's not just people who are, 40, 45, the more expensive people on the org chart. The entry level is being affected here as well. 30 to 35% of entry level jobs this spring, so about a month from now, when people start graduating, compared to a year ago, 35% of those entry level jobs will not be available on the American conveyor belt because AI is consuming them. They'll just evaporate. What'll happen is the companies are like, yep, we're using AI for that data, all that entry level stuff. We're using AI for that data analysis. I actually teach this at the college level and I teach it to adult learners like yourself. So it's a pretty serious dynamic. And we have to go in with eyes wide open. We can wish for one thing, but we can see the reality in another. But this is the macroeconomics we're facing. All of that leads us to a question. Now what? What do I do? Right? Now, what do I do? Right? I've been talking to a recruiter. I've been looking for a replacement job for a year. I'm burning through all of my money. I have applied 2,000 times. I, you know, Nothing. I've applied 500 times, nothing. I'm frustrated by it, but I keep trying to go back into the known. And it really does beg a very, very important question. If all of that is true, and that's not John saying that, everything we just looked at is that's what the data is saying, it forces us to ask a very, very important question, and that is, what do I do now? What do I do now? Okay, all the hard news is over. That wasn't too bad. All the difficult hard news is now over. Now we're going to get into the goods. and the good stuff. All right. So the answer to now what, of course, is you have to build your own conveyor belt from here. This is something we're actually very, very good at in America. We've sort of lost touch with it, but we have always been incredibly good at entrepreneurialism, starting our own businesses, having our own businesses. It's only in the last few decades that we haven't embraced that as much. There's this thing called the Boston Tea Party that many of us have read about in the history books. And I think about that often as like, what was America then? What was the American worker then? How many corporations and towers and all of that existed then? And the answer was zero. We were founded on people doing business for themselves on their own, blacksmiths, merchants, shipbuilders. We were founded on independence. And that has a lot to do with the day we call it Independence Day. We're incredibly good at independence in America. I would argue it's kind of our own DNA. We've gotten off script on that a little bit, but we're kind of good at it. And we should remember that and lean into it, embrace it again, even though the last several decades have sort of maybe diluted our independence because we're like, well, the company is what I'm attached to now. I don't need to create my own independence. I get what I need from the company side of things. But we're very, very good at this structurally and culturally in America. But the answer to everything that we just looked at and all the everything that's happening in the marketplace really is you have to build your own conveyor belt. You have to make it work for yourself at this point in your life, and that's actually a good thing. That's a very, very good thing. It creates some new challenges, but that's quite good. That's quite good. So I'm going to go to the next thing. So what does that mean? It means you're going to have to create a fractional version of yourself. If for those of you who said, "Well, I'm not going to retire. I got way too much to offer. I'm not going back in because that drained the heck out of me. It's not time to do something. I mean, I'm not going to just go volunteer. Nothing wrong with volunteering, but it's just I'm not ready to diminish at this point. So I am going to go into this fractional thing. And there's a lot of tremendously good logic to that. I am going to take the best parts of me into this place that we call fractional. That creates challenge number one of many that we're going to talk about today. There's a version of you that I like to call the fractional you, and it's awesome. It's awesome. Your wisdom, your acumen, your pattern recognition. There's so much good about you. If anybody's read Malcolm Gladwell's book about 10, well, the book is Outliers, but he talks about you become a master at what you do after about 10,000 hours. And I did some math on this recently. And the fractional you is using your mastery. That's the essence of the fractional you. But I love in the book, he talks about it. After 10,000 hours, you become a master. And as I was thinking about this talk today and going for a walk, I'm like, oh, that's really good data. How should I think about that? And I did some math. And I took a full-time worker and I said, okay, all right, how long does it take a full-time worker to amass 10,000 hours? But I had to remove some things. I had to remove the meetings. And meetings are about 6 hours a day of people's day. That's not mastery. That's meetings, right? I had to remove emails. I had to remove stuff. So you only about 20% of your time is actually on your thing, actually on marketing as a discipline, actually on that thing that you become a master. So after about doing the math, 50-hour week, because who's worked a 40-hour week in their life? You are at about 10,700 hours in 10 years. 10 years is about 10,000. Now you can go to chat or go to a calculator and do your own math on this. But the point is you have mastery not kind of early in your career, right? You got your mastery, 20 years, you got 20,000 hours. That is very, very important as you think about the fractional you. That is your value as a fractional person. Is that mastery? Is that wisdom? Now that creates a challenge. And the challenge is this. There we go. Come on, buttons, do the button thing. The fractional you is not the corporate you. And this is one of the biggest challenges you will face on this path is you start to shed away the things that we've called me as a professional over the years. You start to take those away and you feel very exposed and very naked unless you've thought a little bit more deeply about it. When you're fractional, you don't have a title. You're not a VP of anything or a C of anything. So there isn't that. You're not working for a company logo. So maybe the company is a Fortune 100 or a big logo. That's not yours anymore. So that's an external thing. Here they're wearing the clothes as a metaphor, right? All of the things, the place in the org chart, what you've said about yourself, all of that, I always call that like the external apparel. Throughout the course of your life, you've had titles and you've worn logos and you've been at companies and in industries, and that's like external stuff. It matters because it's where you built your wisdom and your mastery, but it's not you. It's not you. And it's in the fractional world, it is definitely not you. No one's ever going to say, I have a referral to you because you used to work at company logo X or because you used to have this, you know, title Y. That is not how you get a referral. And fractional is a referral based industry. 95% of the clients and opportunities that you get come from a small group of people. Later on, we're going to talk about that functionally speaking. But the fractional you is not the corporate you. And I'm going to pause there. Wow. That is a big ass deal. Bigger than most of you, if you're not doing fractional yet, bigger than most of you will think. This is one of the biggest struggles is who am I now? What's my identity? And why is that? I don't know, 10, 20, 30 years of being rewarded for that, being paid for that, being talked about in that context. That's no small potatoes, to quote a Midwest phrase. That is not a small thing. Our ego attaches to it. A lot of times our community attaches to it. This is a big deal. It's way bigger than just understanding the concept. There is deep work to understand the fractional you. So we're all reduced to fig leaves when we leave that full-time world, whether by choice or by force. And but the beauty is we build ourselves back up into the fractional version of you, completely different industries. So what does that mean? What does that mean? All right. Well, I'm going to take a little sip of water here. It means you're, excuse me. It means you're going to contend with some things as you kind of go through this transition. You are going to contend, and I brought a few here from our coursework, but you have to prepare for the fractional version of yourself. Now, this is deep work. I can't skim over this, but there's four things. If you're a note taker or love this kind of thing, there's four things that you will have to do to prepare to thrive and crush it as a fractional pro. And number one is your identity. In our program, we call that who are you in the fractional identity? And we call that your inner nerd. So we don't say you're a fractional CFO. That might be somewhere, but really it's what are you a nerd about? What do you have obsession over? We call it passion, obsession, fascination, and curiosity. When you think about professionally, your passion, obsession, curiosity, those things, fascination, all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, I am awesome. I am an absolute nerd about this stuff. I didn't need the title or the logo or the industry to validate that there's some shit about what I do as a marketer that I'm a nerd about. And that is awesome. So identity is a really big deal, and it's a recurring theme in our program. I got to tell you, the reason we call it finding your inner nerd, that is intentional. Nerd is pretty humbling language. I'm very happy to be a nerd. I'm very proud that I have a nerd in me. But it's pretty humbling language, and that's the point. The thing we all do incredibly well with in life when we want success is we face our ego and we set it on the shelf and say, I'm just a human being. I'm awesome as I am, but I'm not going to bring my ego into the equation. I'm just going to bring the truth about myself, my identity, my passion, obsession, curiosity, and fascination. That is the sweetness of who you are at this point. There's a lot of psychology with this too. If nobody has read the wonderful book From Strength to Strength by Arthur Brooks, they unpack this quite a bit. And I'll give you the Cliff's Notes. If anybody who remembers Cliff's Notes, I see some fingers and hands up there. Yeah, the yellow books with it looked like caution tape or something like that. I don't know why that was a design, but I remember those. I don't think we were allowed to use them back in the day. But anyway, the Cliff's Notes on the book, and I really do recommend you read it or listen to it, is this. There's two halves to your professional life. And in the book, Arthur Brooks talks about the first part is what's called fluid intelligence. You're moving, you're grinding, you're putting in a lot. You are learning so much so fast in your space. And that's awesome. What happens with that is it begins to crystallize into wisdom. And that's part two, crystallized intelligence. So fluid intelligence and crystallized intelligence. Notice that I did not say what is often said is that you atrophy. So there's this stupid mindset out there like, oh, you're over 60 years old. Clearly you have atrophied. We can't bring you into our organization. Clearly you're slow. Clearly you're not as up to date. It's an absolute miss on the value that's there. But in reality, you're smarter every day than you were before. You're sharper. This is tribal thought. This has been going on in society forever. Elders are always in the most venerated places and counted on for the deepest thoughts and the deepest thinking. So this is where your the identity needs to arrive to. This is the work ahead of you to thrive here. Number two. So that's a big one. Number two, if you're to put your fractional business in a box. So circle matters so much. It matters as much as your identity work, your circle. And I'm going to break it down a little bit for you here. So when we say circle is you are going to need 9 other fractionals in your circle. Let's call them allies. Now I'm going to kind of go slow here. So when you are in a circle with other fractionals, certain things happen. You rely on each other. You help each other. You feed each other referrals. You get referrals from those. You have an accountability buddy. You have a pod of professional podness. And it's awesome. It's how fractional works. If it's going to be the business that it is, the industry that it is, 95% is referral based, then the circle absolutely matters. But you'll notice I didn't put the word networking here or a network. There is a misnomer there. All the books until recently said you need to go out and you need to network, and that meant 3 things. Spread yourself all over the place. Get out of the house, collect 30 business cards, go to every coffee you can, meet as many people as you can. That was what was called status quo networking. It's exhausting. It is actually self-defeating, and it's pointless. But I have to give you an alternative. The other thing that comes with that is, not only do I have to network, but I have to pitch. I need an elevator speech. I got to pitch. I got to transfer information about myself onto others so that they can go to their network and say awesome things about me. Isn't that how it works? That's why I need a pitch and all of that. And you don't. Nobody likes to do a pitch. And the only part about that that's even worse is even more nobody wants to hear a pitch. And if you come from marketing, you know it's true. People hate to be sold, but they love to buy. As marketers, we know this already. So, but yet we take this like, oh my God, I got to go network and I got to go pitch and you're going to have a pitch and do all this stuff. And it's all transactional level bullshit. Circle, community, helping others, an inch wide, but a mile deep is the path in our class that we call an infinite loop of opportunities. That's how this industry works. So we can't take that pitch, network, wear yourself out mentality into the fractional space. You won't get any clients. You won't have a circle to rely on, and it won't work. So these are 2 very critical elements about fractional today. Doesn't matter. The first half of this is about being fractional in general. The second half is about being a fractional marketer, but that is absolutely critical. We cover this in depth. It takes 5 classes in a cohort to get there. Third, to have your business in a box to do this right is you got to learn, you got to forget about half what you learned in your past. There's a lot of forgetting. There's a lot of rules. I just mentioned some as it comes to networking and pitching. But the mindset, so many people say, "Hi, my name's, Joe, and I worked for Google." As if when that sits in the air, I'm supposed to say, stand up and clap and say, "Let me rush a referral to you right now, Joe. I can't wait to give you a referral because you told me you worked at Google." But that's the mindset for a lot of people. The reason I would give Joe a referral, and the data supports this, the number one reason we give referrals out is how we make people feel. It's not the information that we share. It's not the pitch that we give. None of that. It's how we make people feel. And if we're going to get referrals by making people feel, then we have to dedicate ourselves to making people feel good, to getting in good conversations. Yeah, you talk about what you do and what you passion, what you love. I feel very good when someone tells me what they're passionate about. I don't feel very good when someone's trying to sell me on something. So mindset is a big, big thing in fractional. There's a lot, about half what you learned in the last 50 years is not going to take you through the next 50 years. If I go through the next 50 years, I'll be 108 years old. I would love that to be happen. So let's just say maybe the next 10, 20, or 30 years. And then third, fractional is a business. It is an industry. It does take discipline and rigor, none of which, none of which came in the manual of the last place you worked. There wasn't any preparation for fractional in the last 30 years of our economy. Fractional is not consulting, it's its own thing, but you have to come to it with rigor. So, in order to avoid this, oh my God, who am I now? How am I going to get my clothes back on as a fractional professional and go forward in the world? And what does that look like? There are certain things you have to overcome. Okay, one more, and then I'm going to get into the marketing piece of things. There's a couple of things you'll face on the path. I like to call this the bridge. So our job here at Voyager is to help people walk this bridge, take you from W-2 full-time, your past, into your 1099 fractional future, your future. And it's a hard bridge, right? Let's say you've been laid off. Like, okay, I got kicked out on the left side of the bridge and I'm not getting back in. I've been looking for a job for years or for a year. I'm burning through my money. All I'm getting is negative signals. Like, that's not working. Okay, not good, but it's a reality. Now I got to get to this fractional side because it sounds good and I want all of it. And John tells me I can succeed there, but there are some things you'll face along the way. I will be honest with you. Everybody faces these, doesn't matter where you work. But on this, as you're in between these two places, these will come up a little bit more often. Fear, no matter if you're a human being, you have fear. It plays a role in all of our lives. On the W-2 side, you might have fear of losing your job, getting demoted, not getting a raise. Fear always plays a role. There's new fears on the fractional side, but you're always going to face them. Imposter syndrome, yes, it's part of being human being. Sales, yeah, people feel sales. I just told you how to get sales is circle, but we still have fear of these things, and we fear loneliness. These will be factors on your fractional journey. Don't worry, we're here to help you through them. It's the point of this is to understand that these things are not there to keep you on the journey, to keep you from crossing the bridge. It's so that you can go, yes, I know that I'm going to deal with fear, imposter syndrome, loneliness, and fear of sales. I know that, and it's good that I know that because I can cross the bridge if I know what the obstacles are. Nobody gets there without it. It doesn't happen. I mean, you have to be not human, some sort of sociopath. So these are the things. These are the things to kind of plant in your head as you're thinking about fractional. And I know what most people are thinking. Where's the client? Where's the job? When do I start? What do I pay? We'll get you there. We'll get you there. But first, it really comes down to really understanding where we are as a work economy and what fractional is to you. And these are the realities of it. So, okay, now we're going to sort of switch gears and talk about marketing. So one of my promises for today, for today's session, was to talk about the fractional marketer in you. And I do want to reiterate here, your value is in your wisdom. Think about yourself as the thinking layer for your one, two, or three clients. So historically, you may have thought about yourself as sort of a doing layer. I did the social media posting, the executional stuff. We all did some of that. But what companies need when you get a referral, it's not usually in that small place. They're like, our strategy's off. The metrics aren't working. Essentially, what they're saying is, I need another thinking layer here. That's built into the economy. You're serving the middle market, which is about 12 million businesses in the US, about 33 million in the US. So you're serving from a $2 million business to let's say, almost up to $1 billion business. And built into that business model is an inherent lack of a thinking layer because they don't have Coca-Cola's budget and they don't have McDonald's budget. So they're working thinner as they try to grow. And where companies are thinnest, this is why they're adopting fractional so much, is where they're thinnest isn't workers, it's wisdom. What that looks like in reality is, you've all seen it, a CEO who's also the CFO, or a head of sales who's also head of marketing. We do these double and triple hat things, and maybe some of you who've done that before. And of course, what that does is it diminishes the mastery. I can't be an amazing person in sales and be absolutely obsessed with marketing without working 100 hours a week and be awesome at both of those. It's not a thing, right? We can lie to ourselves and tell us this thing. It's like, I can be a great football quarterback and a great, soccer goalie, but which one's going to get my time? Which one am I going to get rewarded for? Which one is the economy going to say, do more of that because we need that? So you're there as the wisdom layer. That's your job as a fractional professional. And it's great. Structurally, I'll tell you about some structural things. One, you're going to charge about $10,000 a month per client on a retainer. That's the structure. You're going to work about 10 hours a week on that as the thinking layer. Our program is all about the information and the procedures and the structure for that, but just good to know that, yeah, I'm going to come in as the thinking layer. I don't need to be there 60 hours a week or 50 hours a week. Thinking is like high concentrate stuff. It's not high volume stuff. So the fractional marketer in you is the wisdom layer, and that's needed in the market, and your value equals your wisdom. That's the key. All right. Now, let's move on to a couple of things that make it really, really cool to be a fractional marketer today. Now, like your timing to go fractional, one is outstanding because AI is taking all the other jobs. You have the one thing that you didn't have when you were younger. You have wisdom. So that's huge. Timing is fantastic on that. It's in short supply. So timing is actually in your favor here. But there's other things happening that are outside of you that are affecting this. Where we are going as a work society is we need the wisdom layer more because AI is doing all the other stuff. So we need more wisdom than ever. We need less execution. So where the world is going and where businesses are going, and you already see it, this is what's happening in the economy, is it's the individual practitioner backed by AI. This is what I like about AI. Susie, fractional Susie here is awesome. Fractional Susie with the right AI tools behind her, unflippin' stoppable. It's like Susie with a staff of, I don't know, I think there's 10 people on either side of her right there. Think about it. Like with AI, with the right AI tools, and we're going to talk about marketing tools, with the right AI marketing tools, like Susie's just amazing superpower because she can't do the work of 20 people in media or in strategy or even operating her business. That's not humanly possible. But with the AI tools, absolutely it is. So right now is such a beautiful, beautiful time to be fractional because your wisdom is needed. But AI said, I'm coming in behind you and I'm going to help you with tools to help you be a stronger fractional marketer. And I'm going to talk about three. Okay. I get excited about this stuff, guys. And I got about 5 or 6 more minutes before I turn it over to questions. So here we go. Okay. So one of them, strategy. So if you're a marketer, and you've been around, strategy is your job, your responsibility. We don't have strategy here. All we're doing is spending money and throwing a bunch of stuff against the wall. You're needed for strategy. Like as a wisdom worker, somebody with decades behind you, like you are looked at that way. And yes, that's a good thing. You have developed that wisdom to be that mastery to be good at it. But strategy historically has kind of been a behind the velvet rope, meaning it is expensive and time consuming, or it can be. It can be expensive and time consuming. Historically, we can go, let's bring in a strategy group. Let's do a bunch of focus, all the focus groups. Let's get a bunch of data crunch. Maybe we'll get some Deloitte people in here. Top level strategy historically has not been the easiest thing to access. About 2 years ago, people started to see this and go, wait a minute, we can get that. We don't have to go have 6 months, $300,000, 50-page decks to get our strategy. That's not necessary anymore. And some very, very smart thinkers started working on that. And one of them is actually, I got really, really lucky, is a gentleman by the name of Keith Lawver. And I'm going to admit some people here. He asked this question. He goes, how can we make strategy for the masses? Like, how do we get there? And he wasn't thinking AI, but he created this thing called Ella. And Ella is this. Ella is this. Ella is the team. I always call it 1,000 Einsteins. Like you have 1,000 Einsteins at your elbow. It is the team of strategy behind you as the individual marketer. That's what Ella is. Go visit Ella, do a demo. I'll be doing a demo on it at some point, but go learn about it. But it gives you all that horsepower as an individual practitioner. So you're going to walk into your client. Let's say you get a client, you get a referral. They're a $20 million manufacturing company. They don't even know what they're doing with marketing, and now you're there. But you're not just there, you're there with your power tools, and you're going to crush it with them, right? You're not there, you're not going to bring staff, but you're there with your tools. And Ella is one of those. Ella, you already know this because everybody comes from marketing. You have to nail the strategy layer, right? Strategy, planning, execution. That's your job. That's the promise you make to make sure all that goes well as a marketer. And that's great. That needs to happen. Hard to do if you don't have good tools to pull into, and you can't just Google it. You can't guess on it, and you can't miss it. You can't miss customer journeys. You can't skip over, headwinds and tailwinds in the market. You can't skip over research. And you can't, but you can just Google. You can't just Google it either. You can't just chat GPT it. You can't just, Claude it, right? There has to be tools that like help me with this. Ella is a fantastic tool. I don't know of any others right now that are doing it, but General Chat doesn't do a great job. But Ella says we're going to make strategy something for fractionals that they can have as if they have a team of 100 or 1,000 or 10 Einsteins or whatever that is. You are entering your fractional career with that kind of horsepower. It's awesome. By the way, it also makes you smarter. Just by being around good strategy thinking, it makes you smarter. Okay, so that's one thing, strategy. Two, another thing of horsepower as a fractional marketer that makes you stronger is media. Media has always been a thing. Like if you're in marketing, media is a part. The world has to see you. B2B, B2C, doesn't matter. And there's always been this velvet rope with that too. That is, if you got enough money to spend, we can give you some goodness when it comes to media. We'll give you good targeting. We'll give you good data. We'll give you good creative. You can have all that. Come with the budget, and we can take good care of you. Come with your McDonald's budget. Come with your 3M budget. Come with your Google budget. Come with the budget, and we'll do great. If you don't come with the budget, you're out. You got to guess, you got to Google, or you're going to miss it. And your job, of course, from a marketing standpoint, you've got to target people. You've got to engage them and you've got to convert them. That's the job when it comes to media. And if it's behind a velvet rope, either you don't do it, you don't do it right, or you sort of cut corners. That is no longer the deal. We have a relationship with a company called Pulse Media, and you're allowed. You walk in, it's like the velvet, that thing unclips. And you walk in as if you are McDonald's saying, I want this, this, and this for my media. I couldn't get it before, but I want it now. I want what the bigs get when it comes to data, when it comes to engagement, when it comes to all the things that because I think maybe I only have a $20,000 a month budget or a $5,000 a month budget or, just smaller, just not Fortune 100. Well, we can have that now. Pulse has created that. So that's another thing that's come into the marketplace of fractional saying we can make you stronger as an independent marketer now as a fractional, as a 1099. And then the third we created ourselves because one wasn't out there. And that was how do you operate as a fractional? This doesn't really have to do with marketing as much, but it does. You can operate as a top level professional with this tool. We created something called Ask John AI. So after when people take our course, they know how to go fractional, all that gets taken care of. But what do you do after 5 weeks? Where's your help? Where's your support? Where's all of that? We created Ask John as, again, it's your AI tool. So when it comes to operating your fractional business, you've got this dynamic going on. Like you're not guessing, you're not Googling, and you're not missing important things. You are empowered. So these are three very, very important tools when it comes to being a fractional marketer. And so, one, being a fractional marketer, awesome. You should do it. Highly recommend it. Better than trying to get back into the full time. Totally great way to make a living and a life. Certainly comes with rules of engagement. But then, two, is there's some great, like the whole market's moving this direction. Like companies are like, let me create some. I've got companies calling me now, like, I got an answer for health insurance for your fractionals. I've got 401k. I've got wealth management solutions for your fractionals. Do you guys know that there's 10 million of us that are 1099 white collar professionals? There's 70 million 1099 people, but there's 10 million that are like us, like, yep, no more full-time corporate, doing this thing on my own. Now the whole market's like, how do I go help and serve that? So these are three for marketers that I brought out today to share. So I'll sort of close it up and then we'll go to Q&A. All right. So why do I talk about this today? Because I want everybody to win on the fractional game. I want to provide all the resources. If you don't know about us, our job is to be the pedestal for this. That's our job. We've got classes for that. We've got a 5-part class that's critically important. What don't you know? Fill in the blanks, go crush it as a fractional. But we also, it doesn't end after 5 weeks. That's the thing. You're a practicing person, right? So if you go get a master's in chemistry, like your practicing in chemistry doesn't end at the end of your master's. Now you're practicing chemistry and it's different. So there's ongoing aspects. So I cannot reiterate enough. Community is so much everything in the fractional space. We stepped in to say, we're going to teach people how to do this because it's awesome. And then we're going to create an environment or environments where they can continue their success. So we created our community and our AI where, okay, I need peers. I don't have 9 other people. I need more education because of this. If there's fractional jobs out there, we filter out the best ones and we put them in our community. Are there events? Are they places? As we create an entire membership scenario so that you're not just out in the ether on your own. Fractional doesn't, it's actually not lonely at all, but I know it can look that way. So, all right, it is 4:48. I have talked about fractional for a long time. I know I put a lot on you. Let's talk about some Q&A. Let's dig into some areas. I'd love to hear it. My goal is to send you on your way to go crush it in fractional as best I can. So let's have some dialogue here. I'm going to stop sharing and go over here. All right. What should we talk about? So many things. Uh, who is currently like fractional? Who's doing it right now? Or are people in transition maybe like thinking about it and that kind of stuff? So some of you are thinking who's thinking about it? Who's on the bridge? Okay. All right. Well, that's good. All right, on the bridge. Well, let's talk about the bridge then. If you're on the bridge, let's talk about it. Like, let's go to the bridge. A little visual metaphor. Um, in between the two. So let's talk about it. Where are you on the bridge? Like, are you running as fast as you can to the other side? Are you in the middle looking at both sides, going, which way should I go? I'm here to help with that. So, okay, let me help you. I got 11 minutes where I can help you with your bridge dilemma here.
I'm right in
Peter,
the
I
middle,
saw you come
John.
off. Thank you.
I'm right in the middle.
You're right in the middle. Okay. What happens when you look to the left side where the troll is? What happens when you look that way?
I see the tradition. I see the possibilities. I see where the value was in my past,
Hmm.
and I can still see it. I can talk to people,
Hmm.
but the road, the path to get there is long.
Arduous, arduous. You're not alone in that. Nobody's alone in that. Uh, we've been teaching fractional for 7 years. It's speaking of that path, Peter. It's so many people come into this. They're like, I want to get to the fractional side as fast as I can. So they're not really looking back. But others are, I don't know if I have any more choices. Anyway, in the last year, maybe year and a half, I've never seen that return to the W-2 side more complicated, convoluted, and terrible. Ever. Ever in my life. People are burning through cash. It's taking a tremendous amount of time. The yield isn't there. The jobs that do come up are 3/4 of what you were getting paid. Um, I think we all have nostalgia for it, and it's like, oh, it's safe. I was safe there. I was safe on that side. even though there were trolls underneath the bridge. And I still have people over there, but I've never seen it. And most recruiters I talk to would say, I've never seen anything like this. Not not after 9/11, not after the '08 crash, not after COVID. That if you're on the bridge, that seems like there's just a steel door that is closed behind people, um, and doesn't seem to want to let people back in. Heidi.
I think for me, I've mostly been in marketing agencies,
Okay.
and I think there's a rub between not being in the grind of my 20s and nearing
Hmm.
40, that there's a
Hmm.
desire not to run at that pace anymore. And so
Right.
the balance or the bridge dilemma is,
Mhm.
would a W2 give me more freedom or less freedom than um, a, a fractional angle, which I have had
Mhm.
people reach out to me for fractional type of engagements. And so
Good.
there is an engagement or an interest in that area. And
Hmm.
I have done some consulting. I just got laid off after a year.
Hmm.
And it had a year gap before that,
Hmm.
experiencing a lot of the volatility of the market that we've been in
Hmm.
over the last couple of years. So I think
Yeah.
that is the
Yeah.
weight that I'm balancing.
What are you hearing from the agency people? I'm hearing crazy hours. No, I mean, I'm just hearing it's not desirable. Are you hearing that as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think the all the people I know that are in it, it hasn't changed at all, and there's volatility in the way that agencies have operated has not
Hmm.
adapted to the current conditions.
Yeah.
The let me sell you services and this Im- imploded retainer model doesn't
Hmm.
really actually showcase the growth or the revenue or the ROI that business
Hmm.
owners are looking for when economy's tight and budgets are tight.
There's a lot of, I think, fundamental infrastructure issues on that side of the equation. I really do. Um, I think it speaks to the forward motion of other entities that are moving forward. The fractional model works great for clients. Fractional empowered by AI in this case is amazing for clients. I feel like there's just alternatives, right? An agency's a thing. It's a lot of people, a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of process, a lot of procedure. There's value in it. Um, okay. A fractional with AI is pretty damn valuable as well. We're kind of in between those two places, I think. But where's the puck going, as we say in Minnesota? Which way is the puck going? Um, that's a heady question, isn't it?
I think my question for you is, how do you decide between being a fractional 1099 versus starting like a consultant business or an agency business, especially from the marketing perspective? What's the difference between those?
So I'll put a couple things in your head on that. To be fractional is to be, all right, the things you're committing to, right? You're committing to, and I'll just tell you structurally, I am going to lead marketing at your business I'm going to lead, I'm the wisdom layer, for about 10 hours a week. We charge it 8 to 12 thousand dollars a month, somewhere in that range. Those are sort of market rates. And you wouldn't know what structure to put to that, but that's what we're here for. But that's a decision. Then you go, okay, well, I'm going to do that. And then that means certain things. That means to make the money I want to make, I want to have two clients, maybe three, if you want to make a lot of money. So that's still only a 30-hour week. So it's not super time consuming. The other thing you're committing to, and the decision you're making there is I have to do this community thing. I have to get good at circle. If I'm going to start my fractional business, then I do need to create a peer group that I am an inch wide and a mile deep with. You're committing to that. That's why we have a community to make that easy for people. Every time we start a cohort, if we have 10 people in a cohort, bingo, everybody has their cohort. If we don't, we have an entire community where people start to build their group of 10. But the decision you're making is not only that's my business structure is two or three clients, fractional, just leave it that for now, but that's it. Um, and you're kind of committing to like, yeah, I'm gonna engage with others. I'm gonna help them and they're gonna help me. You're making that decision. Those are some pretty fundamental things that you're committing to. Now, how is that different than consulting? Fractional is permanent. It's just part-time. You cannot, this is where consulting breaks, is if you come in as a consultant and you're there to fix stuff, right? You don't bring in a consultant in if everything's working great. So something's broken and you fix it. The problem with fixing things is they have to stay fixed. And the knock and the historical sort of reality, and this is why the consulting industry is really hurting right now. Oftentimes, when the consultant leaves the room, the problem comes back pretty quick. And then you're either starting over or frustrated or things aren't working again. That's an inherent flaw in consulting is you come in, you spend a lot of time, you spend a lot of money, you probably have a good fix, but the minute the fixers are gone, if that company is not geared towards keeping that problem fixed, which by the way, I will tell you, they're not, then of course the problem is going to come back. So that's why fractional is a better solution. Is that I'm here and I'm going to stay here. I'm permanent. Problem's not coming back, but it's not 50 hours, 60 hours a week. You don't need to be there. I'll talk about meetings. No one needs to be, and on the average of 6 hours of meetings a day to deliver value. That's not necessary. In fact, it's a distraction or prevention from delivering value. So yeah, so that's kind of what you're committing to is permanent part-time until such time, let's say, right, you get hired as a fractional CMO for company X. They're going to go through their thing. You might be there for years. They might get acquired in 3 years. Normal market rules apply to everybody. But the nature is you are there to fix it and keep it fixed. I will tell you all, the first thing your clients will say, they will not say, great call to actions, great dashboard, great campaign. They won't say any of that marketing stuff. They're going to say this, thank God you're here. That's what they always, when students come back to me, it's again and again, thank God you're here. We were living without you, and it was a shit show, and now you're here, and it's not a shit show. I will extend that contract as long as you want it to be extended. Thank God you're here. That is the number one value. And in fact, in the contracts, the contract templates that we have, that's literally written in your contract is those problems come off of your shoulders and go onto mine. Because guess what? Your shoulders have been carrying those problems for 10, 20, 30 years.
John, I know that we're short on time. Thank you so much for the webinar. It's been really helpful and insightful.
Mhm.
Just a couple quick questions. One, a few of them, I'll just shoot them all out. As either a fractional or whatever, how have you managed like the equivalent of the 401k and the savings? Like, do you recommend the fractional do something specific? One.
Mhm.
Two,
Mhm.
my experience is that I have been fractional for part-time, like for short
Mhm.
periods of time. So
Mhm.
are you recommending, in addition to like the monthly retainer, that you say a minimum of 6 months? Because some people want to just test a fractional. They don't want you to
Mhm.
be sort of permanent part-time. They're like,
Yeah.
so you become sort of a what's it called, a hybrid between a part-time and a consultant, because
Mhm.
either they're unclear or they don't know, or
Mhm.
they don't know what you're going to be able to bring them. And
Mhm.
then, do you have to, from your experience, do you sort of have to pick a lane, or can you
Mhm.
be kind of all things? Can you be consultant to one client, and can you be the fractional to
Sure.
another client?
Yeah.
So just if you,
Yeah.
in like the last 2 minutes, if you could help.
Well, I could stay after five, but those are three good questions, and I'm going to address them in reverse, mostly because of my memory
Thank
works
you.
in reverse. So the
Thank
reverse side, you can absolutely do fractional and consulting. 100% you can. At least half the time, a consulting thing will turn into a fractional engagement. You'll because sometimes it's we have this problem, we don't know how to solve it. Can I hire you for 3 months for a number? Can you make it go away? And then what happens right around month three, you go, this is going to come back if we don't keep this problem at bay. So consulting things turn into fractional things that they don't start that way. So that's one. And you should do both. It's awesome because sometimes you're testing out a client. You're like, I have a client, this
Right.
is another client. Do I love them? Do they love me? Do we have a fit? It's a two-way street, right?
Yeah.
So, so you absolutely can and should do that, but it doesn't limit yourself to just fractional and consulting. By the time you learn and move forward in this, you find yourself with time and agency to, yes, do more consulting, but there are a ton of fractionals who have another thing, a side hustle, another gig, writing a book, shares in a different company, like all sorts of other opportunities come up that you should engage with to bring more revenue. We call that the portfolio career, to bring more revenue into your portfolio. Because you should, because
And
you
are
have
you
time.
transparent with the clients that you are, like could
100%,
so you could say that
100%.
you're
Yep.
a fractional CMO for three companies?
Yeah, 100%. They love that now, which is so interesting. I mean, you don't want competing, right? You don't want to be working for Olson, batteries and Nelson batteries. Like that obviously
Right.
isn't something you would do. But yeah, I mean, Olson batteries and, Gibson SAS or whatever that is, that's fine. What clients are realizing is, oh, wait a minute, there's some breadth value here. This person has solved this across three different industries and is solving this. There's a tremendous amount of value with that. We're starting to see, a lack of desire for like, wow, you've been ag for 50 years. That's so valuable. Not so much. Not so
Mm.
much because that's also tunnel thinking. So you absolutely want to be super transparent about that. Okay, so first question was consulting and the other. What was your second question?
I think you answered both of those together, and then my
Okay.
last one was like a 401, like in
Yes.
replacing a
Yeah.
401k, and because you have
Yep.
inconsistency and uncertainty
That's right.
financially. I mean, I think that's why we all sort of tend to like
That's
the
right.
W-2 side of things,
Hmm.
even if it's not necessarily, I mean,
Ideal.
that's just as
Yeah.
volatile
Yeah.
as, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah, and it is volatile. Like if you don't have a job, you don't have the healthcare. That's all there is to it.
Right.
We just made a friend with something called flash benefits. I will say this: we're working very hard at bringing those dimensions into it as well. Is healthcare, 401k, software. We're bringing in partners like help our people, help fractionals have access to that. It's lagging a little behind, but it's coming. If you go into our community, you will see flash benefits in there. Flash benefits is an answer to the complexity of Minnesota benefits. We want to take that nationwide. We want everybody to be able to go hit the easy button, find your benefits, make them affordable. Let's go. Like I said, there's 70 million people that are 1099 and it's growing like crazy. Those who serve wealth management, health insurance, basically what you were doing full time are paying attention now. And we are trying to reach out to them and say, I got 10 million of these people in a bucket. Would you help them, please? Give them a healthcare plan that helps with them. So we're working on it. And when you see things happen, it'll probably come out of Voyager before anywhere else, is because
Oh,
we're the most
cool.
we're the
Okay.
most nerdy about it. Hey, thanks everybody. I'm close it down for the night, and I will see those of you who come into class. I will see you in class, and if not, I'll see you at the next webinar. I don't even know when it's scheduled, but we're about twice a month. So keep learning.